Hey everybody, it's Coach Andrew here from the Self-Aware Athlete. I'm a mental skills coach for hockey players all across North America, and today I'm having a chat with Michael Calibert from Mount St. Charles Academy. Welcome, Michael.
Thanks for having me on, Coach. Pleasure to be with you.
Great to have you here. Great to have you here. So we're just going to have a chat today. I'm going to bomb some questions at you, and I guess the idea is anybody who chooses to watch this video might pick up some tips and tricks about what it takes to get to the level you've gotten at. And I know it's not always a walk in the park, right?
No.
So let's start out with where'd you play your minor hockey? Where'd you grow up?
So I grew up in a small suburb in between Cleveland and Akron, Ohio. And I played the majority of my youth hockey was at a AA level until I got to be older. It wasn't my first year of AAA hockey was my second year at Bantams, and it took me a lot to just even make a AAA team because I kept on getting cut when I would say perseverance and adversity has been a part of my career from a very young age. I remember my tryout for the local Cleveland Barons AAA team, my first year at Pee Wee. I felt like I was the best goalie on the ice, and they still cut me and put me on their AA team. So it took a lot to get there, and it took my parents. I think my parents were really supportive of me, and I think that can go for any young kid before they get to the older levels of Bantams and midgets. It's make sure your parents are supportive of you and you have a good support group around you, because that's gonna give you the confidence to say hey, you know what, I'm a good goalie, or I'm a good hockey player, right? My parents believe in me, and at the end of the day, you should love this game. And I knew from the moment I stepped on the ice from the first time, just it's exciting. There's no better sport than this. So it was really just my love for the game and passion that drove me to get better at those young stages. And I finally made the Cleveland Barons AAA team my U14 year, which is big, because I feel like if you want to get somewhere U14 to U18, that's when you start competing for USA Hockey Nationals in America. So that's the time to totally if you want to be all in your dreams to go play in the major juniors or go play Division I college hockey, you got to find a way to get on an elite team your 14th year. So I found a way to do it, and I just kept working hard that year. And I think that having a really good goalie coach in the process, Neil Conway, I owe a lot of my success to him, but there's also goalie coaches out there too, others that I've worked with. And I think that's another piece of advice I give to young goalies and parents of young goalies is make sure you're working with multiple goalie coaches, because one may have a style that they like and they want to stick to it, and other may have another style. So you can learn multiple things from working with different goalie coaches, and that's what I've had the pleasure of doing. I live in Cleveland, which is a pretty central area, so I've worked with goalie coaches in Michigan, Buffalo, upstate New York, and Utica, like Brian McDonald right now. He's been a big part of helping me get to the next level as far as from a professional standpoint with working little things. And I owe a lot to just working with different goalie coaches, and it's really helped me out. And finally, I was able to make it to Mount St. Charles. They saw me at a camp in Pittsburgh called the Ryan Hardy Experience going into my 14th year. And they knew they were going to need some strong goalies to compete for their national championship. So I went for a skate there in October during one of our off weekends, and towards school, really liked it. And I went out there, skated with their 15s team. And when I was so playing up against older guys, that may be intimidating, but I said, you know what, I want to really go to a team that's going to compete for a national championship eventually. And helped me get like looked at a lot, because like there's not a lot of scouts that go to the Cleveland area, right? Because it's not normally like a central area for hockey, right? Like normally we'd have to drive up to Detroit a lot, because like that was where the main area was, where all the scouts were. So, and I mean, my dreams to play on the East Coast one day for an Ivy League school. So moving to Mount was just like the right choice for me to do. And when Coach Gainey called me in, I believe it was like January or February, after a long period, you know, he liked what he saw with my skate. He said, "Hey, you're here. You want a spot on my team? You got it." So that was one of the best days of my life, was when I got the call to go play for Mount, because I knew it was just gonna head to such a strong program and really, really, really have a good chance of competing for a national championship.
Yeah, yeah, amazing. So it's been an interesting ride along the way, and
Yeah,
I
yeah.
mean, so you've had a ton of success, but I'm sure like you've mentioned, you've also had a ton of failure along the way, right?
Yeah, and it was weird because like going into my 16s years, like 2 summers ago, my goalie coach was talking about, you know, the majority of your challenges as you get older are like the mental side of the game. And he said, like, you know, you have all the talent in the world now, and you're at Mount St. Charles, and like that's full proof of it. But what separates like the really great goalies from good goalies is just how like they handle with mental adversity. And my response was, well, if I think about it, right, I'm kind of already somewhat built for that, because I dealt with it at such a young age. I dealt with the heartbreak of getting cut, or being on losing teams, right? Like just like that adversity I faced at a young age kind of, I think, prepped me for the adversity that I faced like older as a goalie. So, and I thought to myself, well, bumps in the road are what my career's built on in a way. So that kind of gives me a chip on my shoulder with my playing style.
Well, I think you need the bumps in the road along the way, right? You need
Yeah.
to learn how to bounce off those and keep going, because, you know, what I've seen is a lot of times those bumps in the road are the thing that causes a lot of players to just quit.
Right. Right. Yeah. I
And
mean, hockey, when like, I mean, when sports psychologists say like hockey's 90% mental, they aren't lying. Like this sport, like when I'm at literally doing at my best, when I don't think and I have a clear mind and I'm totally confident, and just body language is perfect, and that's when you're at your best. But when you have so much negative thoughts in your head and you're in a negative environment, you're going to be set up to fail in this sport. And you have to learn how to control your emotions, and how to really just have a quiet mind in this process. And that's what I had to deal with a lot. You know, it's a very, very emotional game, and that's what I had to learn with from a young age. So
I
it's
think,
just a grind.
yeah, a grind, right? I mean, what I see, here's the way I characterize it: as a player who is continuing to get better, you're constantly running into the next thing that you need to learn to get better, right? And
Yeah,
that's constant. You really got to worry if you're not struggling, right? You almost got
yeah,
to be uncomfortable constantly, but you got to get comfortable being uncomfortable. It's like the minute you get comfortable is the minute you stop learning, and other guys pass you by. What do you think of that?
yeah. No, I mean, I totally agree. And I mean, getting you should. There's so much like little things that go into the sport, like you realize as you get older. Like at a younger age, like when you're trying to get all the technical skills down. Like here's how to track the puck in your glove, or blocker saves, or absorbing the rebounds with your chest or your stick, right? Those are all like major technical assets. The thing that was like major for you that I like struggle with was skating when I was younger. I just couldn't really seem to get my feet set. Like it was very hard for me to stay balanced and get consistent power in my pushes. So I mean, I was a little slow when I was younger, but I was really athletic. So that kind of bailed me out in a sense. Like I was always able to make a really good athletic save. My skating couldn't bail me out, but like, thankfully, my goalie coach is a lot of them have really good emphasis on skating, especially Coach Conway. Like, I mean, literally half of our sessions when I was younger was like skating, and then literally the other half was like stopping pucks. Like, if you do not know how to skate, you're not going to be successful at this game. I don't care if you're a goalie, defenseman, or forward. You have to learn to be able to skate inside out and backwards. Otherwise, it's not going to happen. So like that's my advice to younger guys in the sport is make sure your skating is awesome and it's at its peak, because that's going to the start of like building your elite hockey player. But for like the older guys, right? Like you said, like you need to have that hunger to get better every day, because the moment you think you have everything down is the moment you're going to let someone else pass by you, right? Essentially, you're just taking it for granted for what you have, right? If you think you have everything, you'd not, because like the game just continues to change. Like you see these forwards now are like pulling out off Michigans and Forsbergs like it's nothing, right? Like you need to learn how to have proper patience and proper technicality to stop these new moves. And the game's getting faster, and the NHL and Gary Bettman, they want to see more goals, right? It's clear with the reffing, with them giving more power plays. I mean, how many power plays have you seen in this Stanley Cup final? It's been a lot, right?
Yeah.
They're calling more penalties. They want to see more goals, right? And the sticks and everything, shots are faster, passes are faster, everything's faster. So you really need to learn how to cover every single little thing you can, whether it be technically or athletically,
So
as a goalie.
they're not making the game any easier on the goalies, right?
No, not at all.
It only gets tougher for the goalies.
Yeah.
So when you and I met, I guess we met, I don't know, what was it, 6, 7, 8 months ago?
It was
Something
about like early February, late January, somewhere around there.
Yeah. So I think from the outside, most people would think, okay, here's a guy who's made it to Mount St. Charles. He's pretty much at the pinnacle. Everything must be going well. But even at that level, there were challenges and struggles, right? So maybe you could just comment on what you were going through when you and I first met.
Yeah, I mean, it was like my third year at Mount St. Charles, and if I may, I'll just give you like a year by year of what struggles I went through. Like my 15th year, I think a lot of it was like overthinking it on and off the ice. Like I was concerned because like that was my year for like NTDP tryouts and stuff like that, and the possibility of getting tendered to a USHL team, right? So I was concerned about that. And thankfully, I had a really good, my head coach, Scott Gainey, was really supportive and was really there for me. And he's like, look here, you got to stop overthinking it both on and off the ice. Like, I'd be thinking like too hard on how to read a player's stick blade or something like that. Like, you don't have time for that in games or practice. And when you have a coach that kind of like, Coach Gainey didn't play goalie, but like he understood like what it took to be successful at a younger age and at a higher level of hockey. He said, just stop overthinking it on and off the ice. Like if you're good enough, scouts will find you. Everyone's path is different. And I think that's what a lot of kids need to understand. Like you don't realize it until it actually kind of hits you, believe it or not. Like, and, I didn't get invited to TP. I didn't get invited to USHL or tendered to USHL team after my 15th year. And I was completely fine, And when you have a coach that's like supportive of you like that, it makes you just like the motivation of wanting to play really good for a guy that has your back. Like you're going to play that much better. So my advice to like the coach.
Yeah, and like it really is everything.
Yeah, and I think my advice to any coaches of young goalies, older goalies, it doesn't matter. Make sure you're just communicating with your goalies, like because this position is just so mental, and your players too. At the end of the day, like if you see something's off with them, like you got to go up to them and say, "Hey, man, is everything all right? Like, is there any way I can help with you, like mentally?" I think a lot of coaches got to start realizing that more.
I think
so
that's
like that's my
point. That's an excellent point. Like I honestly, that is a huge missing part of the puzzle out there in youth hockey right now. I think it's just communication and supporting your players from a coaching perspective. I think there's a lot of work to be done there.
Yeah, and I think that's good with like we've been working on in the one session. I believe it was like making sure with coach feedback, like you have to actually communicate with them, because the majority of them aren't going to recognize it, right? I was just lucky that Coach Game was able to recognize that, and I ended up having a really solid like 15s year, and I had like a 929 save percentage and like a 1 point some goals against the average. It was great numbers, and it felt good. But then the following year, my 16s year, is when things started to get a little bit tough. I didn't think our team the following year was as tight. The environment felt a little toxic, and I just felt inconsistent. There were times when I was really hot, and there were times when I was ice cold. Fortunately, like I finished the year strong, but like what kind of like just hurt me that year is like in practice, just for whatever reason, I couldn't stop a beach ball at times in practice my 16th year. So I would say one of the biggest challenges at moving on to like a higher level of hockey at Mount was learning how to be good in practice, quite frankly. I mean, like you are facing the best players in the country here, like every day. I mean, you're going to give up goals as a goalie, and for players, you're going to get robbed by because you got great goalies, you know. So like you have to realize like there's just going to be bad days, and I didn't get that until probably maturing until my 18th year. You know, like it took me a long time to like, I guess per se, take care of I don't think I also really took care of my body well my 16th year. And I think that's another advice, like you don't realize it until it hits you when you get a little bit older and you're practicing every day. You need to be stretching every day. And I wasn't stretching every day. So, and when I stretch every day, that allows me to do both like athletic saves and technical saves. So it's really about taking care of your body, right? Because your body fosters the mind at the end of the day. You know, you got to treat your body like it's your temple. So
For
I think
sure.
that's another lesson I learned from my 16th year is for anybody out there, make sure you're really taking care of your body. Because at the end of the day, like if your brain can't survive without a healthy body, but your body can't survive without a healthy brain. It's a balance between the two. They feed off each other. And
Yep.
then my 18th year, there was some nonetheless, you know, I finished the season strong again. And now I had really good numbers, and I was expecting, you know, hey, maybe I get a chance at a starting job this year. And I don't know what went on behind closed doors. I don't know what happened, but for some reason I just was backing up this year, and my goalie partner was getting the call every time. I mean, I don't know what went through my coach's head. I was just trying to control what I could control, quite frankly. And I thought I was playing pretty good. Like there were times when like there was a weekend in October when he actually called on me, and I got the 2-1 split. So here I am thinking, okay, I played really good this weekend. He's gonna roll with me now. I'm the hot hand, and it just didn't happen. And that's what my advice is to, I guess, to all players really is, you know, make sure that no matter what happens is you got to stay composed. And I felt like I did that extremely well. Like there were times, like, don't get me wrong, I was in tears. I was in tears, Andrew, in the middle of October after I didn't play the following weekend after getting that 2-1 split. I was in legitimate tears. Like I felt like my career was getting ruined, and I was in a really bad state, like emotionally. And it felt like every game after that was just another chance to like survive and whatnot. So up until Thanksgiving, it was like kind of just I was playing good hockey, but not great hockey. You know what I mean? Like I knew I had another gear in me. I knew how talented I was, but just I couldn't get it on the ice. And I was trying so hard mentally to prepare myself, but whatever I'd been learning or researching just wasn't working for me. And then I found like a rhythm in between Christmas and like the middle of January. I was really playing some solid hockey. And then we're in a really tough conference, the prep hockey conference. And we get matched up against St. Andrews College. I'm sure you heard of them being there in Toronto. Really, really good team, right? And I start out the game great. I made some really good saves, and then a fluke goal went in, and that's when I was like, ah, shoot, that should never have happened. That's disappointing. And then 20 seconds later, they come down 2-on-1, cross crease one timer, bam, they're up 2-1 now. And then it kind of just spiraled out of control there. I got yanked after the first period, and that really hurt me. And I felt like I was at an all-time low. And I just took a look at my stats. Like it's hard that, they say don't pay attention to your stats, right? Well, it's really hard to pay attention to your stats when they put out the game sheet every game and you see you got an .898 save percentage and a 2.50 goals against average. It's like I was just at an all-time low my 18th year, and I don't think I had good enough communication with my coaches, and I was just in a really, really bad spot mentally. And then I met you and got to work, and I think that's where I was. Like I was in a really all-time low, rock bottom, questioning like, am I going to even be able to have like a solid opportunity of playing juniors? What's going to happen to me? Like, have I lost my touch as a goalie? Have I gotten worse? It was just a lot of negativity. And that's where I was when I met you.
So at that point, you came into the Mental Game Academy program, and one of the things that we do in the academy program is we use psychometric tools to measure a player's mental game. So we measured your mental game and we compared you to pro goalies, and I've actually got your assessment result in front of me here now.
Yeah.
And you were in a good place, right? You were, well, I just look at, there's one of the variables on the assessment is self-criticality, and you were headed toward the record there, right? You were in the 98th percentile for self-criticality, and I mean, if I could sum it up real easy, you were in your head just beating yourself up and extremely
really
anxious.
bad. In practice, I know, and like I'd say to myself after all the time, like, stop beating yourself up, but I just could never find a technique to help me to not beat myself up because I was just so darn critical of myself. Like I was just in a perfectionist mindset. Like I had to stop every puck, which is good. Like competition wise, absolutely. You should want to stop every puck, just being competitive. That's the competitor in me. But at the same time, like when you're a really hard competitor, it's hard to not be really self-critical. And that's the difference that I think every player needs to realize. Like if the more self-critical you are on yourself, you need to have a balance of it. Like you should always be willing to compete hard 110%. But if you are too self-critical of yourself, then that's when you get in your head. If you're way under yourself, like not critical at all, then how are you expecting to get better? Like that's a sign of not competing hard, right?
Yeah.
Which I don't know. I'm the other extreme, like I'm compete hard, but like I get in my head too much because whatever, I gave up a crappy goal in practice, right? And I bang my stick or whatever, So like I'm the other extreme of that. And
so it's balance, right? I think
you need a balance.
Maybe one of the things that you learn from the assessment process is here are the variables, these are the controls, this is what balance looks like, and you get to be able to see through the assessment where you're out of balance. And once you understand what's out of balance, then I mean you're already halfway there, right? Then you're pretty easily on the journey to pulling things back into balance, right? Because you're bang on. Like self-criticality, you need it. You better be willing to be hard on yourself. Otherwise, you just don't get any better. But one of the traps that a lot of players will fall into is, especially when things start to go sideways, is that they crank up the self-criticality, and it just that doesn't solve the problem, right? It actually makes the problem worse. And I think that's probably where you are at, right? You had just ratcheted up because everything had to be perfect in your mind, and it's a game of mistakes. It's never perfect. So the natural thing for a lot of players to do is to get in their head.
Yeah, and here's something interesting. So our school brought in. Do you remember Brian Boucher, right? He set the NHL record for most shutouts, like longest shutout streak. Do you
Yep,
remember him, Coach? Yeah.
I
So he's
do.
an alumni of Mount St. Charles. Like Mount's got an impressive record for like alumni as far as for their hockey goes. Like back in the day when high school hockey in Rhode Island was really big. Like they've had 2 number 1 overall draft picks in Brian Lawton and Brian Berard, but who they also have had is like Brian Boucher, who set the record for most shutouts. And they brought him in to talk to us seniors this year, to give us some advice about life. And he said my problem was as a goalie is I was a perfectionist too. And he said, if you think if perfection is possible, he said, it's like a fly trying to get through a window and trying to get out of the room when the window's completely shut. It's just not going to work. When the door's wide open, you just fly out of there. He said, it's not possible. He said, you need to really let things go. And at the time I was just thinking to myself, yeah, I respect that, but I also want to be perfect at the same time. But now that I kind of learned it from you too, what's how bad it is to be extremely self-critical of you. Like when you learn it from just scientific facts that I saw from the taste test, I'm like, that's what Boucher was talking about. It really is like a disease in a way of being too self-critical. It is a disease at the end of the day.
So what do they say, Michael? If you strive for perfection, you might achieve excellence, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
I think that's a good way to look at it. But perfectionism, well, it's like a blessing and a curse, right?
Yeah.
You're going to have a splash of perfectionism in your psychology for sure. You have to, but then you also got to realize that it's not an attainable goal, right? You're heading for excellence, and perfectionism is the thing that maybe guides you along the way.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's good to want that, to realize I have to get better at this and that. But it's just, if you want everything to be perfect, you got to in a way, you got to stop wishing about stuff. If you start wishing stuff about yourself, you're actually not focusing on okay, what's the actual task at hand that I need to get better at? That's what Ian, that's the thing, how he said to solve it is focus on how can I be better today? And he knows Martin St. Louis, and he's Martin St. Louis at the time competed in a time when undersized forwards were really discriminated against in the draft, and he found a way. He said, Martin St. Louis, the reason he was so good is he always asked himself, the question is, how can I get better? Not how I can be perfect, but just how can I get better every day? And I thought to myself, you know what, I'm going to try that. What I did is I started writing out notes, and I've done this in the past too to motivate myself, but this time I had a notepad where I would write okay, what are things I need to get done, and what are things that I should do on the ice to get better. And I'd be okay, adjust with the player when they pull the puck with their stick to snap it off, right? Get better at that, little things like that to get better at. And that's what allowed me to start to actually, I think, improve both mentally and physically at the game too. So it's more about, let's focus on what I can get better at. Stop wishing to be perfect. I hate to break it to every player that's a perfectionist like myself. It's just not going to happen. It's impossible out there, like Boosh said. And I think that, again, when you really focus on getting better, that's when you're going to see the results. Just trust me on that. And that's where I think I've started to see the results, was just, what can I do to get better?
Yeah, so it's about, I think, one of the things that showed up on your assessment was you were in the past beating yourself up, or you were in the future worried about the things that could go wrong, right? So if you're in the past or the future, well, you're missing the present moment, and the present moment that's where you do the work to get better, right?
Right. And that's the monkey mind. And that's what we get into it. And I would fall into its trap way too easy. And just me being me. I'm an emotional human being. It's just who I am. You know, we can't change who we are. There's certain things about ourselves with just genetics that we can't change who we are. I'm not going to be able to change the fact that I'm an emotional person. And I'd sometimes feed my emotions, and yeah, that's a flaw, but at the same time, it's also a beautiful thing because it shows that you can care about yourself and you also care about other people. But like everything about your personality or whatever you have about yourself, every player is unique. There's going to be flaws in everybody. But being emotional, like I think that being coming with that allows you to really like think more in your head, and that's where like the monkey mind can become more apparent, right? And I mean, I get good grades in school too. I study really hard, but like that's the left side of the brain dominant, and that's where the monkey mind comes in. And that's what I didn't realize was kind of why it works like twice as hard against me. It's just
Yeah.
like I'm in my head constantly, and it took me a minute to realize like I need to get out of my head. So that's when I asked the question. This is where we started to find results for me, is how do I get out of my head? And that was the turning point for me right there, is how do I get out of my head?
I think that, yeah, so bang on there. A lot of times, so I'll come across a lot of players who are being told, just get out of your head. You just got to get out of your head. And that's one of those things that's really easy to say and
Yeah.
not as nearly as easy to do, right? So I
Yeah.
think maybe one of the strengths of the Mental Game Academy program is it is a roadmap out of your head, right? It's the
Yeah.
how to get out of your head. And maybe just a definition for anybody who's watching this video. You mentioned the monkey mind, and by monkey mind, what we're talking about is that voice in the head, right? The average person thinks between 50 and 70,000 thoughts a day. 80% of it's negative for the average person. Probably, Michael, for you was 90% negative, right?
Yeah, probably. And especially when there was just things happening to me that I couldn't control. I mean, you love the sport so much. It's like it really does. When you love the sport as much as I do, and you compete as hard as much as I do, and you feel like you're just outperforming everybody in practice, it makes, and you don't get the starts that you want, it kills you inside.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
that really, like you said, I think really legitimately like 90% of my thoughts were negative, because like I can't ask like my friends in school to come watch me play because I know I'm probably not going to get the start then. And it was a really messed up scenario. And you're right, like it was probably around 90%. And I'm sure there's probably other kids out there that I know there's got to be kids out there that are probably in the same situation as I am. And they have to learn, like, eventually the season is going to come to an end. And when you move on, like it's going to be nothing at the end of the day. It's just a passage of time in your life. Um, but it starts to, like, with asking the question, how can I get out of my head? What are things, like, let's just focus on the positives. And that's what started to get me into a groove actually in the second half, which we're discussing in a minute. But
Yeah. Yeah. So um, how would you say this program helped you? What do you think was the thing or the things that kind of got you unstuck or got you pointed in a different direction, or how would you describe it?
I would say, first off, it got me out of my head. Like, I know I said it before, but like that was one of the biggest things out there, was it got me out of my head. And like you said, like I have a 98% self-criticality, and reduced flexibility was also pretty high on the chart there too, which is the ability to, like, come, like, for a goalie, it's like the ability to come back after not coming up with the save, right? For a defenseman or forward, it may be making a bad pass or missing a pass, right? So it's like your ability to come back after making a mistake, right? And that's like if I made a mistake, right, which is obviously not coming up with the save, it's, it would affect me like, okay, try and move on, but that really sucked. But like it would just kind of stay in my head, right?
Yeah.
And it wasn't good enough. So I need to learn how to get that out of my head, right? So it's just how can I stay in the present moment? And what I didn't realize until like now was after I learned how to do that via ABC, which is A being the observer, uh realizing that you're the monkey mind, and B is being in your breath, being in your breath. And if the breath is very, very, very much connected to the nervous system, and that allows you to stay in the presence. When you start to just focus on like your breathing patterns, that's what gets you in the present. And then finally, C is all right, my concentration is back here. I'm in the, you don't necessarily think about being in the present. So that's when you're actually out of the present. When you think I'm in the present, that's when you're out of it. It's really C is just concentrating on the present moment, right? As a goalie, it's all right, time to just get engaged with this face off. Or as a center, it's probably like, all right, it's time for me to win this face off here. It's really just focusing on the next play. And that's where concentration comes in.
Yep.
And that was like the first part of it. The second part of it was now that I'm in the present moment and then now that I'm out of my head, I'm in the zone. Okay. I've connected to that field where it just feels unstoppable. And I remember when my chance came in was we were in our one of our league playoffs, and all of a sudden my partner unfortunately gives up some goals, and coach says you're in. So after about a month of not playing and riding the bench, I get my chance. I've already gone through like about 4 weeks of our training. I'm thinking to myself, all right, we've learned with what Coach Andrews taught me. Let's have a quiet mind here and let's start to get in soft eyes. And then from there, I just was stretching out, got in my breath, got in the moment. Then it was just go play. And from there on out, like it felt amazing. Just every save, I soaked it up even more. And we learn about with the program, right, Coach? We learn about how powerful emotions can be. And because I'm an emotional person, right, I'm able to magnify my emotions. And when every save I made just felt that much better, and the brain waves in my head got that much more powerful, which just kind of engaged me in the zone even more. So I just soaked it up, played really well, and I almost was able to get my team back in it. We ended up losing 5-4 was the final score. We just kind of ran out of time, unfortunately, but we battled back hard, and I gave my team a chance to win. And to know that and feel that just was like the start of me feeling confident again. And from there, just my career just started to get better again. And the second half was really getting good. Every chance I got, I really played amazing. And when he started me one game at regionals, I shut the team out. So, and then at nationals, I was able to. We were down. We lost the first game of the first day, and my team had went 0-6 at nationals before, and then we lose that game. So we're 0-7, and a lot of people are negative. A lot of people are down, and my coach doesn't tell me I'm in the net actually until like 24, like the day of, right? Like you think normally he'd tell you that night, right? No, he tells me like at 10 o'clock in the morning when we got like a 2 o'clock game in the afternoon. I'm like, all right, coach, I got you. I'm in. I'm ready to go. And I find like I crave pressure. I always really embrace the saying, and every player should embrace this, is who struggles with the monkey mind, is pressure's a privilege. And I find that my play just kind of excels when later on in the season, when the pressure's tighter, as like you get in those playoff scenarios. And I'm like, I play every game I've ever played at nationals. I've played this is where I play my best hockey. I know I had just had that feeling, there's just those days where you don't even think about it. You just know it's in your body, it's in your mind that you're just going to go out and play great. And I just did my routine that I developed with us discussing like how to be in the present moment. For me as a goalie, it's really still doing balls off the wall and getting my body warmed up. But at the same time, it's a lot of breathing. When I throw the balls off the wall, I breathe, focus on my breath, and then also focus on the ball. So there's not a lot of thinking going on there. It's just action. And that's what gets me in the present moment. And I was able to stand on my head and stop like 8 power plays from a really good Buffalo split season team. And we ended up winning 7-3. I had about 31 shots, and it was just a great game, and it was a great way to get my team back on track for nationals. And that was definitely like I was in the basement when it came and 10 feet under, right? Emotionally, right? You can't even see my hand. Like I placed my hand here. I was below where you can see the box here, right? And then you just took me like all the way back up here. Confidence is at an all-time high after that. And that really helped me. Once I found the get out of my head, that's when I realized like, hey, once I get out of my head and I'm just fully concentrated, I'm in the zone and I'm able to magnify my positive emotions. And that's what gets me to play that much better. And eventually, when it starts working with you, it just snowballs after that. So, like, I went to the USHL Combine, faced a lot of grade A chances, and played great there. And then I went to this showcase in Florida. Literally, I got back on this Wednesday from. I had 3 shutouts and 5 games played there. So, like, it was just I knew like once I get the opportunities, I know I have the talent. I just have once I get the opportunities, I know I'm gonna play great because I just found a routine that worked for me. And I think that's what's great about this program is like it's able to help players diagnose, okay, what's wrong with me? What do I need to do to get better? And for me, it was getting out of my head. And once I did that, I took off, no matter how bad my situation was.
Well, I think, that the key there is getting out of your head not only feels a lot better,
yeah,
but it also is the key to finding flow, right? Key to finding the zone, which is the key to you playing your best hockey consistently. So, I think that's the important piece of the puzzle there, right? This is all about a goalie getting himself in the zone.
Yeah.
And when you're in there, that's all you got to worry about, right? Get yourself in there.
Yeah. Cause like being consistent overall was kind of a struggle for me, right? Like I said, like pointing back to my 16s year 2 years ago, right? Like that was a struggle for me. It was just being consistent, and it's why my coach then played me a little less than my goalie partner. And then this year, unfortunately, I got stuck with an situation where my coach just wanted to roll with my goalie partner a lot more, and that's, I guess, junior hockey apparently too is kind of like that. You just never know what these coaches are thinking, but it's like you hear it all the time, like control what you can control. But a lot of stuff in hockey, and I know I've said this a couple times, like in this interview, it's like you don't realize it and diagnose it until it truly hits you, and then you have that aha moment. You're like, okay, it really is about controlling what you can control at the end of the day. And I think that made me a better goalie. And I was able to, what this season also taught me about, it really taught me like how to work extremely hard. Like my uncle, when I was like in 7th grade, he said, "You're a great goalie and you got a lot of things ahead of you, but I don't think you know truly what it means." And he goes, "I know you work hard, but like I don't think you know what true hard work is yet." Because he said, when you get older, there are people out there that are just vicious. And like that quote stuck with me. I'm like, it made me want to work hard, but like this season, when you're in a moment where it feels like you're stuck and you've got nothing else to do, it really made me work like a demon. And like I didn't care. Getting up at 5:30 in the morning to go to morning skate for extra ice meant nothing to me. And eventually, like you said, get comfortable with being uncomfortable. I'm comfortable now to wake up at 5:30 to go work out or go on the ice at all times. Like it's in my head, and I was just ready to outwork everybody. And that's my advice to anybody who gets stuck in this situation is, there's no excuse for not being able to work harder than someone, even if they're getting the chance over you. Eventually, something's going to sway in your favor. And all your hard work, both physically and mentally, whatever you do to put in is going to help you take advantage of that moment. But when you get your chance, you got to really take advantage of it. And then that's what I was able to do. I was able to apply what I had learned with you and both with what I've worked on physically too into the game. And I took full advantage of the opportunities I got this second half of the season.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Oh, that's great. I think that is great information for a lot of, any hockey player who wants to achieve greatness. I think this has been a great discussion. Michael, what does the future look like? Where do you think you're going to end up? What's the next step for you?
Well, so I am drafted and affiliated with the Utica Junior Comets and the NCDC. I've spoken with their coach, and that's a place where I think goalie development is really, there's like an emphasis on it, like quite frankly.
Yep.
I think that at Mount, like goalie development has a little bit of emphasis, but not as much as like, it's like you only get goalie development like one time a week, right? Whether I was back home where you only practice twice a week, I was able to go to goalie training like twice a week. You know what I mean? So like the emphasis on development hasn't completely been here, right? It is in the fact that I get to face the best shooters in the country in practice, right? Like you're going to get better facing tough shooters like that, right?
You got no choice.
That you're going to get better at. Like, trust me, I got better because I faced really hard shooters, and I was able to pick out things, like study things online, like In Goal Magazine. I don't know if you've heard of it, Coach Party, but I recommend for any goalie that's using this program, go to In Goal Magazine. There's like good drills, and they ask pros like, hey, what do you work on? And like you can find stuff on there that you could work on. So I'm like, hey, wait, this goalie worked on this. I think I might be struggling with that. Let me work on this. Like it's about little things now that you're older, right?
Yeah.
So to work on that, you have to be essentially your own goalie coach, right? And with Utica, though, like their goalies have been like they've produced like 3 Division I commits within I think the past 3 years. So I'm glad that there's an area that I can go and finally play. Like I talked with their coach Louis Educat, and like there's going to be like he from what our conversation sounded like, is this a place like I believe in you? This is a place where you're going to come and you're going to play and you're going to develop, right? And that's what I need at the end of the day is I need development, right? Because I mean, I was on a really good team here at Mount, right? Like you aren't going to face a lot of shots in the game. You're going to face a lot of really good shots in practice, but those games, there's a difference between facing shots in practice and facing shots in games, right? And because we were so dominant on the shot clock, my team was the one that was out shooting other teams really at the end. So going to Utica and the NCDC is a very like high shot caliber league. Like you're facing on average 40 shots a night, and that goes for both teams. Like all the teams there are really solid. It's a really solid. It's starting to be trend in like a younger direction. Like I'm still a young goalie. I'm only 17 years old still. I'm turning 18 in June, and it's my first year of juniors. Like that's probably a place where I need, in all honesty, coach. And that's, I guess, like probably an advice that I'd have to anybody. Like you don't need to rush a completely high level. Like, yes, it's our goal is to make in America. It's our dream to make the USHL. It's our dream to make the North American League. But like team that offers you that, it's hard to pass it up, and I think that being drafted with them and my conversation with Coach Lou, like that means something to me, that makes me really kind of trend towards them. And I'm excited to see what the future holds. I mean, I am going to the North American Hockey League Prospects Challenge in May, And maybe I do get tendered there because it's a great opportunity to get tendered by some NAL teams. But to know, like at the end of the day, to know that I have a place to go play and a coach that's going to believe in me and have my best interests for me, and recognize that goalie development, there's a huge part of it. That means a lot. So I give, again, like, shout out to Coach Lou from Utica. I'm really excited to see what junior hockey holds for me, you know?
Yeah, the NCDC is a great league, and I think what I'd say there is coach is everything, right? Coach is
Yeah.
really everything, especially for a goalie. So it sounds like you got some good options there.
Yeah,
Amazing.
yeah. And we'll see what happens. We'll see what happens this summer. We'll see where I'm at, and I'm just excited. I'm just excited to play junior hockey, quite frankly. Like, you hear about how great, like, it's like how it's, it's kind of the Wild West of hockey in a sense. So I'm just excited to get out there, play junior hockey, and really play against some older guys and see what, honestly, like, amount, we had such, in a way, a professional environment. Like, you realize, like, hockey, when it gets to midget level and you're at one of these high level teams, like, it's almost a semi-pro atmosphere in a way, but like it's almost a step up now because now you're playing against like older guys. So I'm like really excited to see what it's like to be in like in a way, semi-pro atmosphere, because juniors, if you think about it, is literally just like a farm system for college hockey.
Basically,
We don't,
yeah.
hockey's not like any other sport. So it's really just a farm system for college hockey, and I'm really excited to see what it's all about.
Yeah, amazing.
Yeah,
Well, hey, let's we're getting up to an hour here, so you've been generous with your time. I appreciate it. Maybe we should wrap it up there.
yeah,
But
yeah.
hey, I've
Thanks for
enjoyed the
having me.
conversation. Congratulations on the work you've put into the Mental Game Academy program, and congratulations on your results. And
Yeah,
looking forward to staying in touch with you and as you go through this college career or
yeah, and
junior career.
really looking forward to getting better mentally too. I mean, now that I've, completed the 6-week process, I think it's time for me to like go use the Tays again and get my new results and see what I still need to work on. It's a process, and at the end of the day, you need to have that get better every day mentality.
For
Because if you
sure.
don't, you're a dinosaur in this sport.
I think with the
Your
mental
history if you
you're,
don't have that mentality.
yeah, you gotta it's a process. You'll never arrive at perfection in terms of mental game, right?
Yeah,
It's something that you always want to be working on, just like every other part of your game.
right, right. Well, Coach
Excellent.
Andrew, thank you for having me on here. It's a pleasure.
Hey, my pleasure. Nice chatting with you, and we'll talk to you again soon.
Yeah, talk to you soon.
Thanks, Michael.
Thank you.